one thing that I did that my hiring manager shared with me that made me stand out is that I had content available on my LinkedIn of me speaking, of me working through conversations, of my character, personality, train of thought, and stuff like that. And they actually watched them. They watched I have videos on my LinkedIn. They watched them. They wanted to see, okay, I'm watching him. I could see him being client facing. I could see him having like high charisma. I can see, it gives an even better, because people hire people. So anything that you could do to showcase more of your character and give and maintain that human aspect, I think will definitely help if you're giving the right impression.
I'ma be who I gotta be. I ain't living in your fantasy, and I'll be real if it's the death of me. I'ma be who I gotta be, and I don't care who you pretend to be, cause I'll be real if it's the death of me. Yeah, liars are liars, they burning in fire.
It said it couldn't see my video, so I was a little worried, couldn't access my video. All right, hey, if you are watching this, welcome to another edition of the P.E.A.C.E podcast. We're excited. We've been talking over the past couple weeks or whatever, and we're about to do something a little bit different, just slightly. Actually, we're not taking anything away. We're only adding an element. So today we're about to have a conversation about how to get an interview and then also how to get a job. So there's like a couple steps that you need in order to get a job. We want to help you out with each one of those. But to supplement that, we also are going to start bringing on some of our friends, some of our mentors, ex-bosses, whoever it is, people that we've been exposed to that know how to do these things. For example, we all have friends in HR at pretty much every level. So we're about to bring them onto the podcast, and they're going to actually talk about the details, the facts of their life, and they're going to tell you how to get a job. So if you love that podcast so far, number one, thank you for watching. Number two, it's about to get so much better. Let's kick it off. Let's not waste too much time today. I just wanted to put that out there. So let's start off with how to get the interview. I will say, first of all, and I know probably y'all not prepared for this, but I have friends, people, whatever, that have been laid off for jobs recently. And I've noticed that the landscape of competitiveness is through the roof because there are so many layoffs, but they're not hiring as many people. I feel like in most other economies, at least that we've lived through, there have been layoffs and there's still like a lot of jobs hiring. Right now, there's like a huge cutback. So I feel like this is a really good conversation for right now because people do have to stand out whenever they're trying to get a job. So let's start off with the first piece on how do you get an interview? What are some tips that y'all have done and maybe that you remember or people have said like, hey, like this is what got you even
one thing
the
I can
interview?
recommend is just knowing people. Make a good impression on everyone you work with because like you always maintain a level of professionalism. Make sure every working relationship you have is good because you never know when you can rely on someone in the future. I know a lot of people recently who've gotten laid off in this wave or previous ones who've gotten jobs with former coworkers that they've liked and made a good impression with. And more often than not, if you're in the interview process and like say it comes down to you who applied through like their website and then a referral, and if both candidates are on the same level, they're going to go with a referral. Like 9 times out of 10, it's because you have an extra vote of confidence from someone inside already. So really just trust your connections and make connections. And so it stinks because it's tough. Like, but I'm not like, you don't have to be overly social and like, it's just make a good impression of people in your team that you work with every day, because if they leave and go to a new company, they can help you out in the future if they liked you. Networking is huge. And so I think that's the first step.
And
good point. I used to hate. Sorry, go.
I was just going to expand on that a little bit to say, like, as far as knowing people as well, it doesn't have to be like super personal relationships,
not
right?
At all.
Just in terms of having a good reputation and being a positive presence in whatever space, for example, one of my favorite platforms, let's talk about LinkedIn. Having a good positive presence and reputation on there, having good things to say about people so that when your name is mentioned, people will have nothing but good things to say about you, or keeping your personal brand always polished up so that if an opportunity was to come up and let's say you wasn't even looking for it, I just decided to check in and see who you are, what you talk about, what you stand for, what your goals are and things like that. And if your personal brand is nice and polished up, that could be the difference between, an offer or, no further actions.
I mean, that's a big one. It's just if someone has something nice to say about you, it goes a long way. You don't have to know them personally, but if someone can speak to your work ethic or your personality, it goes a long way. I mean, like, listen, like there's a stat, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 92% of companies use social media to vet their candidates. So if you don't polish your resume, I mean, resume is one thing. If you don't polish your whole platform, if you're out here wilding out on Instagram and someone can see that, you're probably not going to get the job.
They can
turn
see
it
it
private. But
see it.
as long as most recruiters will use LinkedIn, majority are going to use LinkedIn. So if you have a clean LinkedIn and you have good recommendations go a long way too. Ask your coworkers for a friendly one if you're looking for a job. I filled out a couple months ago.
Yeah. Do you all normally give recommendations before, like as soon as you put in your
What do you mean by
application
that? Like,
as well? Like, do you offer them up? Because I know that some people, like, they wait until they're asked, and some people like offer them up. Are you all someone to offer up references before?
Nah, I mostly just wait for, like, I've gotten asked, and I'll usually just wait
and I'll even include on my resume. I won't actually put references or referrals, but I will say available upon request. So like if they're interested in them, there's no need in me like overwhelming them with information. Oh, here's who I am. Here's who I know. Blah blah blah. And it's like, if you want to take it the next step and get to know me further, whatever you'd like to know, I can provide you more information. But I just to save space. As far as like on a resume, I definitely just available upon request.
Wait, are you asking?
I don't really mention it unless they ask.
Leo, are you asking if people like in the job interview process, do I give references up front? Or are you talking about like if someone asks me for a recommendation on LinkedIn? What were you asking?
Great question. I'm asking if you're about to fill out an application or you're about to reach out to someone for a referral. Are you pretty much submitting? Yeah. Are you pretty much giving that person, hey, you can reach out to this person, this person, this person as you look at my resume? Or are you waiting until the interview process to offer up? Or, are you just waiting for them to ask?
I think you all I answered it differently because I thought you were asking, if I'm like me writing recommendations for other people on LinkedIn, like on their profile. That's what I thought you were asking. But for the interview process,
Gotcha.
Every single interview process that I've had pretty much has required them up front. Like, so like I usually just, and usually it's just like,
that's good to know.
Manager, former coworkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to hate, circling back on, the whole point of knowing people. I used to absolutely hate the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Absolutely hate it. And then once you learn more about the world and, let's just say like nepotism or generational wealth, however you want to look at it, like you realize that the world operates in a way that like, hey, I need to keep my close circle close because I can trust these people. That's all it is. It's not like it looks negative because it's keeping every resource in one place. But all this is I know that I can trust where this is. Even if my son or daughter was to lose my money, lose my business, it's probably going to fall back on somebody else within my circle. It's the same thing with jobs and stuff like that. Is like, hey, I can refer you because even if it doesn't work out, it's probably better than me just getting somebody random. The chances of it working out in my favor.
You know what? I guess when you put it like that, I'll change my mind. If in terms of an interview, depending on who the person is, I would probably not lead with that as in like, front loaded before introductions or anything like that. But I would definitely make sure to make that known like somewhere up front. Because like, just think about like references, right? Like when you attach your name to an application or like vouch for somebody, generally, I think it's always like from a hiring manager's perspective, like, wait a minute, you know him? And it's almost like a unspoken conversation where it's like, I know this is a good dude. His judgment has never failed me. Automatically top of the list or like top 3, and it's
exactly
again, like you were just talking about, I guess that's just one of those cases, like it's not what you know, but who you know.
Yeah. Hate it. I still hate it.
It's not the truth.
It's so the truth because it's like, sometimes you could be like, you could deserve a role, right? You could be interviewing for a role. Everything could go well. And kind of the situation I brought up earlier, you might not get it because the other candidate knows someone inside. and it sinks, and it sucks,
Yeah.
but it's like, I think this goes along, like we could talk about this more during the actual interview part, but you can't let yourself get demoralized too much from interviews, because like you need to be able to, like, a good mentality to have is to always learn from every single one. Like at the end of the day, every interview you do is practice for the next. And
Ooh,
we could,
yes.
I have a lot to talk about for this stuff, because I've gone through, because I think that the way that
Yeah.
society preps people for interviews is completely wrong. Like what I learned in college, I think it's trash.
Yeah. Even if it's your dream job, we'll talk about this later. But even if it's your dream job, your interview is still prep for the next, whether it's the next in the succession that you're having for that job, or I got rejected. This happened to me recently. I'm like, yo, I need to get at bats with this company so I can learn what they either want or don't want.
And you're not always going to succeed, right? And like I think, like, you can't go into interviews thinking you're going to get it, but you have to come in with a level of confidence in yourself. Not that, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So, and it all goes into prep as well. Like I had an interview at my dream company and I didn't get it, and it shook me for a little bit. But then I was still more immature in my professional career, so I didn't have as much of this knowledge.
Yeah. What about prepping your resume? So we know that you need to get to know people, whether it's on LinkedIn or within your company, ex-coworkers, reach out to them. What about prepping your actual resume?
Biggest thing,
the words on your paper,
is grammatical errors. If more times, like a majority of recruiters, if they see typos or poor grammar, they're going to throw that resume out. It reflect your grammar, and your resume and your LinkedIn reflect on you. If you can't take the time to run it through a spell check, have someone proofread it, it just shows that you're not careful, and you might be hasty, or you might be messy. Like really, it's such a simple thing that you cannot overlook it. And just ask a friend, there's multiple people, there's multiple resources. Guy, just open Microsoft Word and put your resume in. And if you if you cannot spell check, it's like awful.
That's a
Next
tip.
thing is like make a professional email. If Space Cowboy 69 is applying for a job, or at Gmail is applying for a job in my company,
right.
I'm kind of overlooking it, because like you can't take the extra, like the simple step to just create a new email that's professional.
Very true.
It's like, because it just goes to, like, I don't like the word professionalism, because I think it has negative connotations with what it's very rigid in what it should be. But you need a certain level of decency. Yeah, and it just shows there's slight etiquette, but create an email.
Yeah, I think, and just to be fair, and like in terms of fairness, it's going to be a pool of talent, right? And let's call it 20 applicants. Just starting off by the bare necessities is like, okay, structure, punctuality, like there's no grammatical errors. It's just like a quick scan over, because that right there may or may not trim down that list to 10.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, what are the simple things that they're doing right to begin with?
The biggest thing is
fair, right? Because like
it is being fair.
It shows an attention to detail before we even get into high level concepts or what the job entails and things like that. I've seen people lose out on chances just because of providing a hyperlink and the hyperlink not take you anywhere, or because we're talking about working in this case, working in tech. So some other things that came to mind as you were talking, Kenny, is like the overall structure of your resume, the structure and design. Does it look like you put thought into it? Does it look like you care, right? Especially if we're talking about for a position of some sort that requires creativity, that requires design, structure, things like that. If your resume looks like, you just threw up a few bullet points or something like that, I think it goes to show how much you care, or it goes to show how much you lack creativity. It could be viewed that way.
The biggest thing going along with that is like with resumes and your LinkedIn as well, because both are equal in these times. Like right now, like in this day and age, you can use LinkedIn purely to get a job. You just need to pass the automation, right? Like recruiters aren't sitting here sifting through every single application. It's just the truth of it. It always goes through some sort of automation. And so you need to have keywords and key points on your resume. So and this is kind of, I don't know if it's an old fashioned take, but you need to alter your resume for every single job, or at least have different resumes for different industries.
Yep.
So that you can just kind of change a couple of keywords to match and get through those filters.
Yeah.
And even if, so I'm going to finish this point, then I have a follow up for it. But yeah, you just need to, you hit it great. You need to put thought into it, and you need to make sure that your LinkedIn and your resume match up. Because if you're going to submit both, like this also goes in with like, don't fluff too much on your resume. Like almost 40% of people lie, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics as well. Like a lot of people fluff their resume, but recruiters, they can find discrepancies, and everything you put on your resume or your LinkedIn, you're liable to be asked about. The only thing that most recruiters and interviewers cannot ask about is your education. So like I think it's actually law. I'll have to fact check and go back it, but they cannot ask you like anything about your college, like, or something like that. Like if you say it first, then they're liable to talk about it. So like they'll ask you pointed questions to get you to talk about it if you're early, or if you're like fresh out of college, then they'll talk about it, like it comes up. But shit, I've almost forgot my next point.
So talk to me about fluffing the resume though, because I think that a lot of people lie on resume in order to get job, and it's a competitive environment. So how do you toe the line of making sure that your stats, your skills are, literally at the edge of your capabilities, rather than just like, hey, this is all that I did? Because I noticed like for a while, I'm just black and white. Hey, this is exactly what I did,
It's tough because especially if you're new, right? If you're a fresh grad, not even a grad, if you're like not much work experience and you're trying to break into an industry or into a field, people always tell you lie, like fluff up your stuff, get you looked at. But the problem is that might get you the interview, but it's no guarantee you're going to pass, because then you're going to get asked questions. You're going to have to prove your competency.
Yep.
And it's worse if say like if you were proficient at SQL or something. Then you have that on your resume, and then you get asked to do a SQL assessment and you bomb it. You're instantly failed, and like you're a joke. Yeah. Like you're people are like they're just gonna laugh and be like, okay. I mean, they're not really gonna laugh, but it's just gonna be like,
it's a waste of your time.
It's a waste of everyone's time, and so it's like you can fluff to a certain extent, but you have to be able to back it up. And that's the biggest thing, is what I said previous. Like everything you put on your resume, you have to be ready to talk about. And if you're not ready to get asked about anything on your resume, then you cannot put it on it, because it's everything on your resume is fair game.
Yeah. And that's all they have to talk about too, is what you put on their resume, and what you're putting on your resume. So, and
based on that, they get you to open up and tell other stories through that. Yeah. But everything on your resume is just an outline of yourself and your work. So what you want to do is you need to, if you're like in college or if you're not in college, you need to cater projects or cater any experiences that you have to things that you think relate to how you can do the job that you're applying for. Team building, teamwork, whatever. If you're in the military, right, and maybe you lead a squad, right? If you're in a leadership position, you can write bullet points towards that on how it applies. Like, okay, this is my leadership experience. I've dealt with this. Because you can be a teacher and go into a career that's not a teacher, because you have project management skills and you don't even know it. You just have to, it's hard to think out of the box because we're boxed into a career title or an industry. But there's so many common skills that are shared across multiple careers, and that you just need to be able to frame it correctly. And so that's in my head the correct amount of fluff.
I just have to agree and just say, like, my simple concept going into it is just know your capabilities. Like, what you put on this resume, can you accomplish that? Because if you put it on the resume and you accomplish that, me as a hiring manager, I almost look at that as your potential, and not saying that I would, but what if I make that an expectation for you? Now you can't perform. And last thing that, he talked about landing an interview and being tasked with a case study or something like that. But I think worst case scenario is we hire you. You get comfortable with the salary, you get comfortable with the environment, whatever. Now, unfortunately, we got to let you go because you're not what you claim to be, or something along those lines. So I think like that's worst case scenarios, like where you don't want to fluff up beyond your capabilities.
Yep.
Because you mess around and land a job that won't be around for long.
The resume.
And your
Exactly.
teammates also hate you for that too. So
You'll get
you just
exposed.
ruin any connection.
The resume
that you
is the place to showcase your current skills and what you've accomplished and what you can do. The interview is the place to express where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that y'all have done as we wrap this portion of it up? Anything that y'all have done prior to an interview that you think has gotten you a job, or any stories that you've heard?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Friends that have done anything.
Los, you can go first.
So the first thing is, if we're in terms of talking in tech, because continually evolving and changing. One thing that I did that my hiring manager shared with me that made me stand out is that I had content available on my LinkedIn of me speaking, of me working through conversations, of my character, personality, train of thought, and stuff like that. And they actually watched them. They watched I have videos on my LinkedIn. They watched them. They wanted to see, okay, I'm watching him. I could see him being client facing. I could see him having like high charisma. I can see, it gives a even better, because people hire people. So anything that you could do to showcase more of your character and maintain that human aspect, I think will definitely help if you're giving the right impression. And I think the second thing that I wanted to say is, like, in terms of prior to an interview, what helped me the most is there's interviewing services that you can like pay for. And also like there's sponsored like programs out there. For example, Candorful, for veterans, they provide free prep interviews by like senior, executive level, all types of different like pools of talent where everyone comes together to support veterans and help you prepare for an interview. And these are like people who are executive level and up, and they're just literally devoting, I think, about an hour of time to your own personal development, helping you develop a plan, a story, how to navigate through it, all that good stuff. So if that's a resource that you don't have available to you, just keep in mind that they do exist out there. You can prepare for an interview, like you can have a mock interview, and it helps because maybe you don't even know what your story is, or you don't know how to navigate through your story. You haven't thought about that. So definitely recommend that.
Yeah, being put on the spot is something different.
You don't know until the questions start rolling in. Yeah. You store it up here, but if you haven't verbalized it, it's different. It's different. Yep. You can talk about yourself all day long until you have a VP or somebody saying, "Tell me about yourself." But I don't really mean tell me about yourself. I mean, tell me about yourself in terms of what you can do here. So you have to take your personality and experience and tie it with what they're looking for on the spot.
Yeah, that goes into like what we're going to talk about during the interview. That's a big one, but those are great points. And I agree with Los. Like, there's a lot of resources out there. Also, ask a family member, ask a friend, ask someone in your circle to help you mock.
Very true. Yeah.
Ask them to interview yourself, or just ask like, ask me seriously.
Ask Kenny.
I'm always on to do mock interviews and help people out, or look over resumes. Yeah. I do it for a lot of my friends. Two things that I have to share as well is if you already have the interview, like if you have a schedule, you're in talks with a recruiter already, ask them for help. Ask them what resources they have to help you with the interview, the process, whatever. They're there to help you. I said this multiple times before, but if you get hired, it looks good for them.
It's true.
Especially if it's the company recruiter. It's not even a third-party recruiter. Like, they all have resources. They know what the team's looking for. They have things that they can share with you to help you prepare. They're not giving you the answers. They're just giving you the runway, and it's your job to put in the work and prepare for it correctly. Another thing is the pre-application process. If you see a job a listing and you see all the bullet points and you think that you cover all of it and you get rejected from it immediately, you might not have passed the screening. It's not a bad thing to email the recruiter, email that posting, or find them on LinkedIn and just send a message and be like, "Hey, I'm really interested in this job. Here's my resume. Here's my LinkedIn. I feel like I meet the requirements of this job posting, but I got instant rejected." And I personally know someone who did that and got an interview off that and then got a job because they were like, "Oh, our automation is broken." I'm sorry, like we like our screening bot, like machine learning is failed right now. And so like, I mean, but you have to be realistic. Like you kind of have to be a little self-aware. Like you can't just be like, oh, I can kind of do this stuff. Like you have to be confident. Exactly.
You can't do that 40% foolishness.
But yeah, that's all my interview prep tips. And then
I love it. Yeah, be prepared. Going into the application process by asking friends for help, using the resources to go over your resume, doing research about the company so you can tailor your resume.
Talk about is
if
you get it, just know what the company does, because as soon as you as long as you get that first phone call from HR, it helps knowing at least something of what the company does. You don't have to know a lot about them, but just know what the heck the company is.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're going to teach you.
They care if you at least did some research to look up basics that you know about them. There's nothing worse than if a recruiter is like, so what do you know about us? And you say nothing. I just applied to you.
I saw your salary online and it looks pretty good. All right, we're going to cut this one here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in this far. Remember that part 2 is coming up, and this is how to get the job. We just told you how to prepare for just the interview, how to get your foot in the door, how to get that application across the desk, how to reach out on LinkedIn, all that good stuff. And next, we're going to talk about how to get the job. And, after that, we'll have a guest on. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace. Yo, thank you for tuning into the P.E.A.C.E podcast. This podcast actually started off with 4 friends sitting around a table once a week. We were having conversations to educate ourselves about the world around us, talking about what we're dealing with day to day as regular people, and simply to self-reflect. So that's all that you're seeing us do here, and you're getting to see it live. So I challenge you to do the same thing. If you've made it this far, obviously something caught your attention. So get a group of friends and build a small community and start to join in the conversation. Like, these are tough conversations, these are fun conversations, but these are conversations that are needed to be had. In fact, I want to make it easy for you. If you're listening to this podcast at home, invite a friend over. Or maybe invite 2 friends over, 3 friends over, whatever it is. Turn your TV on, your computer, your phone, wherever you want to watch it, turn the podcast on, okay? And join in the conversation. If you're listening to this maybe on a run, at the gym, I get it. I do the exact same thing. But maybe you can share the link, clip the file or something like that, and just pose one of the questions that you heard here today. The point is to build community and to self-reflect. Oftentimes, we don't vocalize the things that we need to work on, and that's one small way that I think that we can, help improve ourselves, improve others, and most importantly, pursue excellence and cherish everyone. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you again next week. Peace.
Rhymes is crunch time. Liars lay on life.